Welcome to a doggerbend model railway video. Today we are remotoring this old Lima XBT. These Limas are, I'd say they're a decent model, though they're just a rehashed and repainted version of the Lima HST. This one I got given to me by a friend a couple of years ago. It's been on semi-permanent loan to another friend. And he agreed to do the camera work, and so I could fit a new motor to it. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy. So this video will probably do the exact same thing as we did with the Lima 38. We'll cut it into two parts. First part will be disassembly and cleaning said locomotive. As you see, there's gunk, pet hair all through the gears. So we'll have to take all this out to refit it with. We'll get rid of the old Lima ring-filled motor and replace it with one of these cam motors. It should be quite an easy job. But again, in railways, sometimes easy jobs sometimes are the most hardest and longest to do. So let's get started. First of all, we get a screwdriver. Where's the screwdriver? You locate the screws in the body of the locomotive. If it wants to come apart, that's the next question. I've never actually taken this loco apart, so I'm not quite sure how to do it, so do it by trial and error. Always, when you're working models, always have a part drum, so you put your parts in, so you don't lose them. Very expensive if you lose parts. Now that should come out. Okay, what am I looking for? Lugs. No lugs on the body. But right now, because I'm not sure if there's any lugs or hidden things I'm missing. There you go. Here she comes. Okay, so inside the model, this one is obviously not fitted with any headlights, so we don't have to worry about them in this conversion process. Put the shell over one side. We disconnect this clip. This will disconnect the bogie. If it wants to come off, there you go. And the bogie coming off goes into will probably go into methylated spirits bath just to get the gunk off those wheels. Again, I'm not sure how to do that, so we'll put that off to one side. We'll come back to it. Okay, how do we get this out of here now? It appears the only way we can do it is by coming down off top. You'll let the steel weight, can't lose that, put it off to one side. If you lose that, this thing with its new motor will probably just sit there spinning.
Being the novice that I am, Michael, I didn't realise locomotive was so heavily weighted, actually. I thought it was all the motor.
No, these ring fields are quite light models. They run on one end.
I think video's going well.
Mm.
Alec plus pad.
And we take that off. And there, that reveals the inside pickups of the motor. Now our sectors will come out. Put the frames off to one side. So here we have the motor. As you see, it's got a fair bit of gunk built up through it. So when we take out the old ring-filled motor, we'll have to get that clean out. So to disassemble these ring-filled motors are quite simple. All you have to do is undo those two screws there, and gently ply, and the ring motor comes out. I think me and Graham will have a quick break before we continue working. And welcome back. Sorry for that quick break. Me and Graham had to figure out a plan of attack for the rest of this thing. As you see, we've already lost on the pickup for the front bogie, but that's gonna be soldered onto here anyway for the replacement motor. So how do we go about pulling apart a ring field, you may ask? That is simple. You come in, just line up for the screws. There's a couple of ways to pull these apart. But you got to ask yourself, do you want to keep this as a conventional ring-filled motor, or do you wish to use her as a new cam motor? For us, we're gearing up for a cam motor, so we're not going to be keeping any of the old ring-filled stuff except for the housing.
Yeah, Michael, to ask a silly question, being an uninitiated brand new model railroader, the difference between a ring-filled motor and a brush motor?
Well, this is a ring-filled motor. It's an older model, older version variation. I don't really know, to tell you the truth, the difference, but these new cam motors are a lot more powerful and a lot more silent. People that have a Lima will be able to testify, as you know when you're running this, Graham. It does sound quite literally like someone's strangling a dying cat, like it's so growly and yuck. So for model railways, we need something that's silent, so people don't realise it is a model. And also, if you install DCC and sound it, you need to minimise the motor noise. So anyway, to take this out, because this is a Bobo, not a Coco, we don't have to worry about that inner wheel. If this is a 44 class or a 42 class or any Coco model, we would have to take out the center wheel to give you access. So first of all, you go in, take that out. That is the old carbon brush motor. We don't need that, so we put that over the one side.
Wow, how about that?
You can probably still reuse this, but I wouldn't recommend it. You'd have to go in here isotope alcohol and all sorts of alcohol to clean up. The way these work is you've got a magnetic outer core, which electricity passes through, which forces it to spin. This is, I think you'd call this a free pole motor, because you've got 3 poles of the engine. I'm pretty sure that's how it works, but again, I'm not 100% sure when it comes to motoring.
I'd say that's probably right, Michael.
Okay, so the next thing is we come in here and get the inner core out. this is the magnetic part. Got to pull out a certain way to avoid damaging to the core. We can damage the magnet itself because we don't really need it for the conversion. There you go. That's the magnet. These are very powerful. If you need something to I know there's a few people I know who are mechanics, and they always carry screws and bolts in their pockets. If you put some sort of plate on here, like paper, something like that, you can probably put your screws and nuts around on the outside, and they will not go anywhere. And other goodies coming out of the motor, we've got the carbon brushes. So next part is we've got to take off this bit here. This bit is the old outer frame. This would have like electronic pickups for the motor. So this goes to. We'll resolve this with a new motor. Go in with side cutters. Cut it off close as we can to contact. So we have something to solder on later. So now we're back down to housing. How this will work is we've got to cut. Yep. We've got to cut this housing off here. Once you remove this housing, the replacement motor just fits straight in there.
Wow.
And just do some super glue, and she would be cleaned up, ready to go.
Is that rust on those gears? On the gear? Is that what I'm looking at? I'm looking through the camera, of course.
I don't believe it's rust. I think it's like coppery substance, an artificial copper, maybe. But maybe there's a little tarnish. But as you see, there's lots of.
Sorry, folks, we'll get you back focused up there.
But yeah, pretty much how this conversion will work is we go in, we cut this central hub off, which will give enough room for the motor to fit through. But before we do any of that, we're going to clean this up because we've got a lot of pet hair, just a lot of build up of gunk and carbon and all other sorts of yumminess, like as you see just from my hands. That they were white and clean when I started, and they're already going black from the grease. So first steps first is we have to go in with tweezers and a brush and start cleaning it up.
Okay, I want to pull up just briefly.
Yep. So you put the button. Yep. Hit the button. And welcome back. Me and Graham have to have another quick talk about how we're going to progress with this part of the shoot, because this part is going to be the complicated bit, because I've got to do cutting and gluing and fitting. So anyways, so the first steps first, we've got to, I've already started going around with a bit of methylated spirits, so I've got to dissolve all the old grease and carbon from the gears, and that will hopefully free up the pet hair. And I'll go in with tweezers and pull the pet hair out as it comes free.
Michael, I must confess that is actually border collie pet hair, so only good pet hair.
Only the finest. I remember when I did the Lima video, I was using some tweezers for this, and in my own defense, Graham's been good enough to lend me his tools for tonight, because I've quite literally come straight from work to do this video.
Except for the solder, Michael.
Yeah, neither of us realised we were out of solder. I think I've got most of that right down. There's a bit on there. Well, you can see from the paper we've already got a fair bit out. It's got loose. I think that's most of it. So again, we're just using standard methylated spirits. Methylated spirits, for people who may not know, is 100% alcohol, so it will dissolve any buildup. Plus, it will also set without a residue. It's the same stuff I use personally to clean my tracks. Don't worry, we'll go back in and grease these gears when we fit the new motor. these Lima XPTs were good for their time, but again, their time is well past. They're well past the prime. And Graham, to answer your earlier question, I do not believe that's rust. It's probably a plastic.
Just turning back this way slightly, Michael. That's it, yes. Now, let the folks have a good look there.
For people that may not know how these motors work, I explained on the one that came out of it how it works, but I can show you from here. Pretty much, I use your screwdriver pointer. The motor cogs point through here, through this fitting here. They will key into these cogs here. That would in turn cause these ones on the wheels to spin. The important thing is when you're ever wiring one of these models up, is you got to remember which wire is picking up which end, which can create a little bit of headache if you don't know what you're doing. After all, there's a saying in the Model Railway Club, you must keep the smoke in the wires. If the smoke comes out of wires, you're screwed. I think I've got most of the build-up out. Now I have to go in with something a bit more powerful, but I'll clean the inside of the cab, the fitting too. Always maintain a clean and dust-free environment when you work in these models, clean these models. Go in with a rag to dry it out. As you see, that housing's already 10 times better. And you can see from the paper underneath how much gunk we've moved. Hang on. Like that was all sitting in the inside of the motor, inside the bush. So we don't want that floating around in there. Now while we've got this bit like this, we can also go in and get any of the gunk we see within the cogs on the wheels. The more we get rid of, more freely this thing will run. Which I don't think I can get in with a set of tweezers I'm using. You're also going to fit this with a new pair of traction tyres because the old ones are long gone. So this will probably be, by time Fisher Graham, will be a totally different engine.
Alright, this normally runs on my layout, which is my floor layout, anti-say, in the process of doing something better. And
I think that's all the collie here. Get some inside there. Yeah, Graham's actually also a model aircraft man. So pretty much I've corrupted him in the great world of model trains.
yes, this is all Michael's fault, and YouTube, and or actively using YouTube and Facebook, of course.
Okay, so now we've got all much of the grease and gunk we can out of there. I might go in with later on with a toothbrush and get more of it because I can still see a fair bit of it. So now we go in with our old friend WD-40. You don't need a lot, just enough to help clean it. There you go. Yeah, I borrowed that can out the back of Mum's car, so I cannot be held responsible for how badly it worked.
Our studio this evening is actually in my kitchen, where all the big lights are, because the rest of the place is covered in computers and aeroplanes. And normally Michael does all his home video work at Doggerbend, at his home facilities on the property.
It just seemed easier with all the things I needed were in town, so I thought, yep, I'll come in and do the video. All here. So yeah, I think we've got all the collie hair out of it from Mr. Benny.
Oops. Sorry. Sorry, people, I dropped the light.
Well, we are filming out at 10:30 at night, so still a fair bit of gunk there. This is probably the slowest and most meticulous part of the work, because you've got to get rid all this build up of gunk we want to get rid of. Less we have in there, easier the motor will run. Easier the motor will run, more efficient and more reliable said model will be. This conversion process will work on most of your old Lima models. I have been told after I did the Lima 38 that the motor itself shouldn't be put in 38s, but I managed to get it in there, and it seems to be was working well until somebody played with it. I'm not going to say who it was, because it's a friend of mine and Graham, so I don't want to make him look bad. As you say, I'm still getting out a fair bit of gunk from inside of the model. Where's the camera?
Whoops.
Yep. See, that's gunk coming from inside the motor housing. This is probably the most boringest part of the video, just hearing me and Graham just keep yabbering on about anything and everything.
Can you just turn in this fire a little bit, Michael? That's not a good point.
Again, with this, you don't want to be too rough, otherwise you'll bend something you're not meant to bend. Or you'll break something you're not meant to break, and you're up the creek without the paddle.
Okay, we're coming up to our next pause. I'm only the cameraman. Michael gets to call the pause.
Graham, pause whenever you need a break.
Okay, well we might pull up now for a few minutes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Well, welcome back. Sorry about that. Due to a minor cameraman error, we accidentally went ahead and recorded the whole tyre fitting of the motor.
Thanks, Mike. Just don't tell the world on Facebook, will you?
And it's already fitted and all the surgery is done, but I'll talk you through the processes of what you do to replace one, to get it ready for fitting. So we go back for this side here. As you see, the bearing and plastic bushings here has been removed. That was cut out to make room for the cog, otherwise it would not have bedded in firmly. With this part, you've got to be very careful not to cut into the cogs. If you cut into the cogs, game over. Pretty much, if you accidentally nick the cogs, it will not tooth in bed properly. So after we had that sorted out, and had the bush and all the bits removed, as you see here, I've cut the bearing just to make sure I could get in there. Though there's probably some people yelling at the camera now, saying, "Oh, you silly bugger, you shouldn't have cut it. You could probably save it to reuse it." All I can say to that is, yeah, but that's funner. So then once that was over, you go to the inside of the motor, which I can't show you now because it's been super glued in. You glue it carefully with some standard super glue. I just used Tarzan grip, it was just whatever I had laying around the shed. A note on super glue: you do not use it to glue foam. It'll eat the foam. So then, once it was glued, we lined it up, put it through, and yeah, it's nice and firm. Now this will be ready for any 12 volt power trial, just to see if the installation was correct and done correctly. So we'll pause and we'll go through the next section. Welcome back to another part of the video. Pretty much what me and Graham had to do was we had to get one of the old DC bottles. This particular one came from a Lifelike train set, so it's not particularly the most advanced throttle. It doesn't allow you a very good speed control, but it will give us enough speed control that we can test the installation and check the motor is operating. So this, you got to be careful. You don't want to accidentally zap yourself, or you don't want to send the motor flying off the wall. So you set it for a slow setting. You get two wires. We were trying to set this up with some separate wires, but the wires weren't working. There she goes. The cogs and everything are spinning freely, and that proves me enough that the motor is operating. I'm just having trouble getting good connection. And that shows you how these motors work. Let's go a bit slower. This does not give you really good slow speed control, so I can't really slow it right down. The advantage of these motors is they give you a bit more slow speed performance. Right, and it's making a lie. Yep, okay, just doesn't want to work now. But yeah, this installation is quite easy to do. Just as long as you follow some simple steps, you can remotor your limas just like this. But also, while we were pulling it apart, when we gave it a method wash, we removed all of the grease. So to re-grease it, you need to grab my good old friend Vaseline. This is the Americans may have call it something else, but this is like a petroleum jelly. Yeah, it's a very light grease.
I think that's what they call it, petroleum jelly.
Yeah, but it allows you to. It's a really light. You allow to grease the model. Pretty much how I do it. Put a little bit there, and a little bit there. When it ever comes to lubricating any model, less the best. Less of the best. That makes no sense. But yeah, that will, as those motor works.
The less, the better.
Yeah. Otherwise, you'll end up having black cogs again.
So just 3 little dots, Michael.
Yep, that's all you need.
Okay.
Though probably an oil would probably be better, but other ways grease them. So greasing, we did it. We did. So anyway, to reassemble this, which we're just touching on now. We'll be touching on it further in the next part two of this video. One of these wires, you wire down onto this pickup here. The other wire gets hooked onto here, which gets fed onto that bogie at the other end of the train. That gives you a rough idea of how this thing gets put together.
Right, so that's the front bogie.
Yep, well, one of these is the front bogie, one of these is the back bogie, that's the front bogie.
And that's the negative pickup.
Yep.
And which means one side's insulated against the other. And you positives on your.
One side's collecting, one side's depositing.
Yeah. Okay.
It's very important you don't get those two mixed up, otherwise you won't go anywhere. You'll have a continuous one-side pickup, which you could probably burn out a motor doing that. It would not be a good idea. But anyway, thanks for watching this part 1. And me and Graham will have part 2 filmed within a couple of days, which includes the soldering, putting back together of the model. Well, thanks for watching, and have a good day.